Hello everyone, this is Pico Entertainment. We are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be a review of the series finale of Black Lightning, which was titled Closure. Now there may be spoilers in this review, so be warned now if you haven't caught up with all of the episodes from the 4th season. It may be good to go away, catch up with all the episodes throughout that series, and then come back to this overall review. Now this finale of course ends the 4th and final season of the CW superhero show, which I think overall was just a shame, because I think it's been a very good to strong show, particularly in its 3rd season, which I think overall was the best of its entire run. Now if we recap over the previous events of the previous episode of this season, Tobias had now fully assumed control over the Masters and had cemented his place as mayor and the major controller of the criminal element. We had Chief Lopez, who would take one of the energy boosters. As we learned, she had a personal grievance against the emitters, and overall Jeff had agreed to sell the deeds to the house over Tobias. He took over them to meet up with him in order to wipe away his memories, and then we had an eventual fight between the two, and after beating Jeff down, he sends Jen a picture of Jeff similarly dead in the process over the picture over his phone. Now I've always liked Black Lightning as a show. I have to be honest here, this was an extremely weak finale and very disappointing overall in terms of an actual series finale for the show. There were so many elements that were rushed, other elements that were strangely brought in at the last minute. It really felt patched up together and lacking those big moments that we should get for a series finale. It's very clear as day that there were intentions to go into a 5th season, and then there was a last minute change and a decision to cancel the show, so halfway through they had to make certain adjustments, rushing through to wrap up everything as quickly as they can while setting things up for any potential spin-offs. Now this should have been a longer episode, maybe close to an hour if possible, and if I'm being blunt, I do actually question how invested the showrunners really were in this show. It feels like it was something that they wanted to complete as swiftly as possible so they could concentrate on other future projects. I really feel that actually 2 more episodes were needed in order to round up all of the particular story arcs of this 4th season overall, and at the same time provide a round and sound conclusion for the series entirely. I think if I remember rightly, season 3 had around 17 episodes, so this season finished on 13. So again, it just really disappointing, and I think overall everything kind of felt flat, and it just didn't have that resounding finish to the series overall that I think it should have done. And so we're just going to go over the details of the entire episode itself, and I'm just going to quickly go over the good points and the bad points overall. So we started off the episode where the team were working intensely on their plan to gain revenge on Tobias after he sent them the photos of Jeff seemingly dead on Jen's phone. Now of course we all knew that Jeff was still alive. They weren't going to kill off the lead character going into the last episode, but I did question the overall tone of this scene, because there didn't seem to be too much in terms of a outpour of emotional outrage, considering at the time they felt that Jeff was dead. So we had a strange lack of really scenes involving the family crying and really showing how much they were missing Jeff. There was none of that. It was almost as if we skipped that particular development of gathering the sadness of everybody, and everybody was already sent on gaining revenge in a very business-like manner. So again, that was one of the many examples where I think we were rushing through the developments of the show. We see later scenes where we see Jeff, who is in the ground. He's been buried in a coffin. His face is all busted up, and we get flashback scenes to 30 years ago featuring a conversation between Jeff and Gambi when Jeff is a young teenager. Of course, he's discovered his powers for the first time, and there was an event where Jeff had killed a criminal and they had to bury the body, and this was a good scene overall where Gambi sets to teach Jeff with his powers overall, and Gambi has always been one of my favourite characters of the entire series, so this was a good scene that we saw on here. We go back, we saw the original Jen rematerialise. Now this was a very strange moment. Now we all know going into this final season that the actress who plays her, China, had some personal issues going on. If you go on YouTube, I believe you'll find a video where she outlined the fact that she did have issues going ahead, and that's why she announced that she was leaving the show. Now we were all wondering in what capacity would Jen exit the show if it was possible, and they took the weird strategy of having China as Jen for the first, I think it was 4 or 5 episodes. And then they replaced her, if you remember, because Jen was exhibiting all of her powers in the skyline. She disappeared into the atmosphere, I think it's called. And then we had a different alternate version of Jen, someone who was taller, looks completely different. I didn't question that strategy at all, but I thought it was relating to what was announced by China. And I thought we were going to persist with this actress for the remainder of the show. So when I'm watching this finale and I see all of a sudden China rematerializes Jen, it really was out of left field, and it was something that were really bringing late to the game, and I just really wondered why we were doing this at this stage. That's a development that you needed an episode or two to really go over how Jen came back and what was going on with the alternate version. We bounce back later on where we see Gambi, Grace and Anissa infiltrating the base because they have to take down the emitter forces, which of course was disabling all of the powers of the emitters. We had decent scenes of fight choreography as Anissa and Grace were helping out Gambi as he was going in to disable the emitters, and then we see later on that Anissa gets injured and they take her away. We go back where we get an encounter between the old Jen and the new Jen. They were calling her JJ, I believe, and again, this was a decent fight scene. We had some good special effects, but I was completely taken out of it because I was just watching this the whole time. And I kept thinking, why exactly did they bring China back? Why couldn't have they maintained her for other episodes throughout? It was really strange, and we found out that the future Jen was a dark manifestation that originated when Jen went into the atmosphere for the first time, and she was trying to take over Jen's memories and her life overall. It didn't make sense, and it was even further strange when they modulated the other actress's voice as to give this sense that she was a much more of a darker force. And I thought that was a bit insulting to the actress. Why couldn't she have just had her normal voice intently? But it was just so weird, and I think it took away from the primary conflict. Again, if we had a proper season, this would have been a 2-episode arc that would have been dealt with prior to the series finale overall. So it was just eating up time that could have been more pushed towards the resuscitation of Jeff and the eventual confrontation with Tobias. But we bounce back again, and then we see Anissa get injured and they take her back to the base. We then get further flashback scenes as we see again that Jeff is in the grave, harking back all throughout the series where we see happier times with the Pierce family. We have other scenes where we see Jeff in his younger days reflecting. If you remember, throughout the series we had those very touching moments when he's talking to his original dad as well. So this is again just tapping into Jeff's mind as he's trying to really get himself out of the hole that he's been dug into. And we see Jeff connecting to a special element, I think, or mineral within the ground. We get this light blue glow, and this is what he uses to resuscitate himself overall. And then he busts out of the grave, he's back into the costume, gearing himself up for the eventual conflict. We go on where we go back to Chief Lopez, who we all know had a personal grievance against the Metas, and she had taken the energy boosters as we saw in the previous episode. Again, this arc was not important, and this is a further indication how really this episode was more of a season finale, because this has been an ongoing thread. She had been a recurring character throughout the season. So the last couple of episodes, we delved a bit more into her character and her ongoing motivation. So this was like the pivotal point within her character arc, right? Now, in any other season, this would be fine. But of course, in the series finale, Chief Lopez's story wasn't important to the overall series. So we spent too much time on this. And this was really confirmed when Jen, having regained control of her old self, comes back very quickly to fight Lopez as she's causing chaos in the streets, and then she defeats her just like that. There's no real tension or suspense. Jen just beats her very quickly. So again, this was really throwaway at this point. Again, this is one of those big adjustments I feel, and if this was a season finale, I felt the Chief Lopez arc would have been lengthened a lot more than what we got of it overall, but at least they resolved it quickly. And then we go quickly now to the final confrontation between Jeff and Tobias. It was decently executed. There were some good fight scenes and maneuvers as we see Jeff using his electricity. Tobias, we all know, is a very powerful opponent, someone who can withstand the energy blast of Jeff, and they're fighting throughout Tobias's apartment. Decent choreography here between the two. And then we get, for me, a really laughable moment when Jeff throws Tobias out of the window and he gets impaled on a spike. And the effect, I gotta say, was awful when we get that further away shot and we see Tobias dangling on the spike. He's all blood everywhere, and then he starts spouting out about he's the righteous leader for Freeland and he will stand by what he believes in. It was just so laughable. Of all the ways you could have resounded the conflict between Jeff and Tobias, this was the worst way to do it. And again, this is the writers clearly now in that mode of just trying to wrap everything up. And this is what made this finale so disappointing, because as we all know, the conflict between Jeff and Tobias has been one of those critical plot points throughout the whole series, right? We started off season 1 seeing that Jeff wanted to get revenge against Tobias for killing his father. So the final fight between the two should have been a massively monumental event for a series finale. And it was treated just like a throwaway encounter. This was just really disappointing. It was handled so quickly, like it took away all of the threat level that you've been setting up for Tobias throughout this entire season. So it was just really disappointing overall. Just really felt shortchanged by this whole encounter at the end, and they just wanted to get it over and done with. So everything fell flat, and I think overall Tobias has been a great villain throughout the series, and they just didn't do him justice with the way that they resolved the final conflict between Jeff and Tobias. So it's very anticlimactic and very disappointing. We get further scenes where we see TC visiting Painkiller again. I know they were trying to set up the Painkiller series, but I think that's something that hurt this series overall. There was too much Painkiller involvement, and basically TC was establishing that he could have disabled the killing initiative set within Painkiller's mind. The only dilemma here was that it would take away the memories that he had of the Jefferson. So they were debating on whether they would do this in the future. Because we are in a series finale, we shouldn't be focusing on Painkiller, and this is justified because it's been recently announced that the CW actually would not be going ahead with setting up a Painkiller series. So all of the extra time that we were setting up Painkiller and the extra scenes that we had, which felt very repetitive at the time, they seem like a waste now. And I think that took away a lot of again, focusing on the central conflict, which should have been between Jeff and Tobias. So we finally move forward now to where all of the Pierce family are together back in Anissa's apartment. They're all celebrating now because Tobias has been confirmed as killed and everything has been resolved. They've disabled all the emitting forces. And again, we didn't have no recollection scene between the family and the old Jen. Jen just appears there. She's in her white dress. She's talking with TC. So no meeting again with the family with Jen. And this is again the writers taking away key elements of the episode just to try and wrap it up. So everything was just really falling flat. You could clearly see that they just wanted to get this episode done with overall. We have Jeff and Lynn announcing that they're getting remarried now. So I suppose that was a good thing, because I haven't liked the fact that Jeff and Lynn have basically been at each other's throats throughout this entire season overall. I think they're better when they're working together as a team. I know they wanted to establish fractions within the marriage, but I think they went too hard over it. So it was good that they're finally getting back on their feet and trying to sort themselves being married again. Jeff announces that he's retiring as Black Lightning, as does Gamby as well, being the tech guy. And again, this is them wanting to set up the potential spin-off series. He says that basically Lightning, Thunder and Wild can carry on setting up the new stages, and Gamby as well states that TC can be the tech guy as well. So we may get a spin-off series later on down the line. If it's not going to be Painkiller, then maybe it'll be Thunder and Lightning taking over the reins. I'm pretty sure the CW wants to add another additional show. They have also announced that they're going ahead with the Naomi series. They've announced recently they're going to do that as well. So I'm not too well versed on the character overall, but it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a potential continuation later on down the line when we focus much more on Thunder and Lightning as well as the lead characters. And they've basically set that up throughout the end of this series finale. So that was it really, and we had the final scene where we had Lala coming back, breaking out of the statuized form that he was set up with halfway through the season, and he's very happy that he sees Tobias dead, impaled on the spike. So as I mentioned at the start of this review, I just feel that this was once again an initial season review that they had to change halfway through in order to make it a series finale. It's happened a lot of times through various television shows, but I just think it was very sad that Black Lightning didn't get, for what I feel was the true series finale that was deserved. It was just a really disappointing, flat finale, patched together, felt very much like adjustments were done at the last minute overall, and yeah, it just didn't really provide the high quality finish that I think the show deserved overall. Like I said, it's been a very strong show. I thought last year it was by easily distance the best of the CW shows that have been put out there, and it deserved a better ending. So who knows, we will maybe get a spin-off of the younger characters overall. I was never invested in a Painkiller series. I don't think he's that interesting enough of a character. We had too many sequences throughout this 4th season where Painkiller was involved in all of these elongated fight sequences, accompanied by this hip-hop soundtrack as usual, and I think it just took away the presence of the Pierce family in general. But a sad end, a flat end to what I think has been an overall very strong series overall. In the beginning, I was very skeptical about Black Lightning as a series. I thought it was just more kind of pandering to the push for more black characters overall, because we'd seen previously with the likes of Luke Cage as well. But it did have a good strong identity, and like I said, when it got to the 3rd season, it really hit its stride when it veered away from the Rachel speechifying and got much more focused on a superhero show that was very exciting, very textured and very depth. And this overall 4th season was mixed results. I did like the story and the presence of Tobias. I think they established him again as a major threat, but it really fell away, I think, when there was too much involvement of Painkiller. It took away very much from the other Pierce family characters. I hated the way that they handled the whole Jen dynamic. Surely there was a better way where you could have spaced out all of China's scenes so she was consistent throughout. Why not just have her disappear in the Iron Sphere for a bit and then come back for the season finale? We didn't need this whole dark manifestation for Jen, especially if you're going to wrap it up so quickly and not put a lot of investment into it. So there were just too many other story arcs that didn't feel quite essential, quite important to the overall story of Black Lightning, and I think took away from the main characters overall. But despite this disappointing finale, I think it was a very strong show overall, and I hope very much that the actors involved can go away and find other roles and projects. It's not very easy in this landscape that we're in now as well, because I did like the actors overall, so hopefully they can build for the future. And if we can get a continuation of the younger characters, then I would at least take an interest to see where they can take that ahead going forward as well. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings on the series finale of Black Lightning. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you think it was a good end to the show? Do you think it could have been handled better? In my opinion, do you think it was very messily handled, and I think it could have been bolstered by better preparation and planning in the long run? Do you think that we should have got a season 5 of Black Lightning, especially now that we're not getting a Painkiller series? So maybe they might do a U-turn and have some characters go away, some characters coming back, and continue Black Lightning for a 5th season. I would like to see that very much so, but we'll wait and see what happens with the CW in terms of what they do next with this show overall. So those are my thoughts and feelings on Black Lightning. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please also hit those like and subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.